Hey guys, in this video, I want to answer a frequently asked question we have been receiving lately, which is, how long will it take for the ashwagandha I'm taking to work? So if you've recently purchased some KSM-66 ashwagandha and you're wondering, how long will it take before I see the results? How long will it take for the ashwagandha to do all the things I've heard and read that it can do? Then stay tuned because I want to answer that question in this video. Alright, so I want to break this video down into two simple parts. One of the first things I want to do is get some groundwork out of the way and talk about some of the subjective factors that could be involved in this particular question, just to give you a general idea and some things to consider in regards to achieving any result with any herb or any protocol really. The other thing I want to do is dive into some of the clinical research that has been done on KSM-66 ashwagandha around some of its major systemic benefits in the body, which actually talk about exactly how long it took for certain effects to be achieved, to give you a general timeline, something for you to go off of that's a little bit more specific. So diving into the first part, I just want to point out that the answer to this question is going to be highly variable. How long it's going to take for you to achieve results from a particular herb, or ashwagandha in this case, is going to be variable to maybe somebody else. And this is for a lot of different reasons. A couple of primary reasons would be, first and foremost, your consistency with the herb. Even if you're taking the right dose, but you're not following the right pattern, if you're not taking it every single day, this could, of course, interfere with the results of this herb or the effect of this herb. Some other major things are going to be your general overall lifestyle. So that includes everything from your diet to other things affecting your body in terms of your lifestyle. So what you do on a daily basis. Are you somebody that's always indoors? Are you somebody that gets little to no exercise, or do you exercise way too much? What are your sleep patterns like? Do you hate where you live? All these things that affect your lifestyle and also your environment could have a great effect over the effect of the ashwagandha. And the other major thing that I tend to see is a person's particular perception of life. So their mental and emotional reactions or responses, psychological stress in other words, could be a major interfering factor with the effect of ashwagandha or anything that you're trying to do to improve your health. So these factors, your consistency with the herb, your general lifestyle and environment, and even your mental and emotional stressors could all greatly affect and determine how soon or late you see results with ashwagandha or really any herb. So I just wanted to clear that up and get that out of the way. It's something that's very difficult to quantify exactly or precisely because of the uniqueness of every person's health. Also, every person has a different level of health. Some people have been stressed out for 10, 20 years chronically, and now all of a sudden they're going to implement some herbs and change their lifestyle. Their effects might take a lot longer to be achieved, whereas somebody who's, let's say, only been stressed out for the last 3 months due to some sort of life event, they're likely going to see sooner results, I would imagine. So because their general stress level is lower, their body has less repair to do. So those are some things to consider. But if you want to dive into more on the general idea of how long it'll take really any herb to work, be sure to reference this earlier video. Otherwise, moving into the second half of this video, fortunately, there are plenty of studies that have been done on KSM-66 ashwagandha, and a great deal of them actually have been able to determine a general timeline of how long it took to see these physiological changes in the experiments that were done using ashwagandha. So I'm not going to dive into every last study that's ever been done on ashwagandha and all of its many benefits in the body, but I want to dive into some of the major benefits of ashwagandha. And looking at these and getting a general idea of how long it took for these effects to be achieved could give you a pretty good idea of how long it might take to achieve other results. So even if I'm not mentioning the major benefit that you're maybe taking ashwagandha for, somewhere in this video, somewhere in these studies, you're probably going to get a good idea about how long it could take you to achieve whatever effect or result you're looking for. As an example, I want to dive into one of the major benefits of ashwagandha, which is its ability to lower cortisol. Now, although this is a specific benefit or effect of ashwagandha, high levels of cortisol can contribute to a wide variety of health issues. So high levels of cortisol might be the thing that's contributing to weight gain, hypothyroidism, hair loss, and even diabetes. So if you're trying to correct any of those issues, and if I don't touch on those, getting a rough idea of how long it took to lower serum cortisol should give you a pretty good idea of how long it might take to start correcting some of these other issues. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions by the end of this video, just leave them in the comment section below. So diving right into it, as mentioned, here we're looking at a study on the use of ashwagandha for stress and anxiety. So this is sort of 2-in-1. And keep in mind that anxiety is typically just a symptom of chronically high stress in the body. So if we look at this study, it was actually done over a course of 60 days. And what was found by the end of day 60 was that serum cortisol levels were substantially reduced. So that study and the information in it right there gives us a really good starting point for understanding how long it might take for ashwagandha to work for you. So we know that it takes at least 60 days, which is about 2 months, for the serum cortisol level, so the cortisol in your blood, to become lowered. Now, this is going to have many additional benefits. As this study points out, it could help alleviate anxiety. So by day 60, 2 months into taking ashwagandha, pretty much every single day, around a dose of 500 milligrams, should result in not just the reduction of cortisol in regards to your blood work, but you should start seeing great relief in symptoms like anxiety and probably a great deal of other mental and mood imbalances. But now keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier, cortisol is largely implicated, elevated cortisol I should say, in hypothyroidism. High cortisol deactivates T3, rendering the thyroid hormone useless. So if you're dealing with hypothyroidism and you're wondering how long might it take to start correcting some of my hypothyroid symptoms, well, remember, at the root of hypothyroidism, one of the major culprits is that elevated cortisol. So it could take maybe anywhere from 60 days to a little bit beyond that if there's other underlying factors contributing to hypothyroidism, like too much estrogen, some sort of liver issue, a general toxic accumulation. But for most people, what I see is that in regards to hypothyroidism, I don't think I've ever had a patient with hypothyroidism that didn't have high levels of cortisol. So I think high levels of cortisol next to high estrogen is one of the driving sole factors of hypothyroidism. And if it takes 60 days to lower the cortisol, you should start to see relief in those hypothyroid symptoms at least within 60 days and anywhere beyond that. So I would at least say about 60 days or 2 months of regular ashwagandha use should help with not just lowering cortisol, but alleviating anxiety and potentially alleviating a lot of the symptoms associated with high cortisol. And again, some of the major ones are going to be hypothyroidism, diabetes-like issues, so blood sugar imbalances could be regulated. But the more chronic issues that stem from long-term cortisol elevation, like let's say hair loss. If you're dealing with hair loss from cortisol elevation and hypothyroidism, it could start to reverse it or at least stop it within a couple of months. But keep in mind that it takes a long time for the hair to start to regrow. If you look at a baby, they're typically born sort of bald with pattern-like baldness, and it takes about 5 years or more even for a baby to really start getting a full head of hair. So there are other symptoms or health conditions associated with high cortisol that may have taken longer to develop and may take longer to start reversing. But some of the immediate things you'll probably see in about 2 months of supplementation is the reduction of, again, the stress, anxiety, probably depression, most mental and mood imbalances, and typically like low energy because cortisol will impair your cell's ability to make energy. So those things you should probably start to see correct almost immediately within that 60-day period or so, sometime after that maybe. Moving along, another major benefit of ashwagandha is its ability to boost testosterone. So a lot of ashwagandha's effect come down to regulating the hormones, which has a systemic beneficial effect on the body. So this is going to be beneficial not just for men in improving sexual function, putting on muscle mass. Testosterone is beneficial for both men and women. Generally, testosterone puts the metabolism in a more anabolic, energetic or energy promoting state. So it's going to be beneficial in many regards. It's going to help with a lot of health conditions and symptoms, everything from sexual dysfunction to low energy to weight gain even, to a lot of other things. Even PCOS might be contributed to actually an elevation of estrogen and actually a deficiency of things like progesterone and testosterone. So many symptoms could be alleviated through its pro-testosterone effects. And if we take a look at this study that was actually done over the course of 90 days, so 3 months, on day 90 from baseline, so meaning from day 0 to day 90, there was a noticeable increase of sperm count up to 167%, a 53% increase of semen volume, and a 57% increase in sperm motility, effects which were achieved through a significant greater improvement in regulation in serum testosterone levels. So in other words, after the course of 90 days, so by month 3, day 90, not only did the testosterone levels and the regulation of testosterone in the body significantly increase, but as a result, so did all these aspects of male fertility health. So this just gives you an idea of the positive effect that boosting testosterone through the use of ashwagandha can have on the body, at least in this case related to men's health. But again, if you just hop online and search, all of the symptoms of low testosterone, you'll get a general idea of the systemic effect that testosterone has in the body. So in other words, 3 months of use of ashwagandha can help with a lot of health conditions that many people are dealing with. So in summary, so far, we know that at least 2 to 3 months or 60 to 90 days of the use of KSM-66 ashwagandha, again in the dose range around 300 to 600 milligrams every day, can start to have a very beneficial effect in regards to modulating the hormones in your body, altering your biology in a positive way. And by those points, you're probably going to see the greatest results in regards to lower stress. So you'll probably feel more resilient to stress, the alleviation of mental and mood imbalances like anxiety and depression. You're definitely probably going to see an increase in overall energy and a manifestation of that through sexual energy. So in Chinese medicine, a robust sex drive is typically a good sign. It's a good biomarker that things are probably working well in your body. You need, in order to have a healthy sex drive, you sort of need a reserve or surplus of biological energy. So that's a good way to sort of determine whether you're, chronically stressed out or if you're otherwise healthy. At least I observed that anytime I become stressed for more than a couple of days, that my sex drive is the first thing to start to, die down a little bit. So as of now, we at least know that 2 to 3 months is a pretty good indicator or good idea or range of how long it might take for you to start seeing results with ashwagandha. So there are obviously many other benefits of ashwagandha in other studies we could get into. However, most of them are also around the range of 2 to 3 months in terms of their effect. But also keep in mind from a different perspective on the other end of things, ashwagandha is a tonic herb, so something that you could benefit by taking pretty much every day for the rest of your life. So for example, it's going to be difficult for you to quantify how long is it going to take for ashwagandha to, let's say, achieve an anti-aging effect and add 10 extra years to my life. That's a lifelong study. And these studies have been done, but I'm not going to be able to quantify and say, well, I'll know that you'll have an anti-aging effect of ashwagandha by the time you're 90. That's the evidence. So there are other aspects to this, in terms of how long it might take for ashwagandha to work. But I think the general idea here and the conclusion from the studies is that other than the short-term benefits, if you take ashwagandha pretty much over the long term, of course, in an appropriate manner, then you're likely going to be, ensuring a greater lifespan. So it has a longevity-like effect, everything from increasing the lifespan, there's studies on that, to having an anti-aging effect on the brain, increasing telomerase activity in the brain. So these, again, are things that are more difficult to quantify and say how long it might take. But the general idea is that these are the beneficial effects of continual, regular, long-term consumption of ashwagandha. Just like, having a good overall lifestyle is going to add to your general quality of life. So I would say in summary, for most of the things that you're probably using ashwagandha for, you should start to see at least beneficial effects by month 3. So 90 days into regular use of the KSM-66 ashwagandha. And other than that, the regular consumption of ashwagandha, just like adhering to healthy lifestyle practices, should just improve your overall quality of life and health, adaptation, resistance to stress and disease. However, that does bring this video to a close. Hopefully you found it helpful and useful and it answered your questions. If you've enjoyed it, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for future videos. If you're interested in looking at some of the studies I reference here, as always, I'll be linking those below. Otherwise, if you'd like to supplement with some KSM-66 Ashwagandha or just learn more about it, you can find that on our online tonic herb shop in the description box below.